Hello, and welcome to Finsweet Live Community Day. Today we are joined with Walker Milhoan. Walker Milhoan is a part-time cattle rancher and a full-time brand and Webflow developer at Milhoan Design, located in Southwest Montana. When he's not herding cattle or sketching fresh designs, Walker enjoys skiing Bridger Bowl or fly fishing on a remote Montana stream with his wife and 3 children. Walker, welcome. Very, very cool description there. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good, because we love to have people on this show that have unique stories and just something a little bit different than what other people are used to. So whether that's coming from a different background or living in an environment that's just different, it's interesting. People like that. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But before we get into that, let's say hello to the audience. Let's bring some of these comments up. Hello, Robert. How you doing? Nice to have you. We have Peter. How you doing from the UK? What's up, Peter? Brandon Tancott. Hello. Magdalena. Hello. How are you? Mike Douglas. Good morning. Del Jensen. Hello. Who else? We have Penny. Okay, I think this is going to be a fascinating interview. So good to finally meet Walker. Yes, I think if you've been in the Webflow community, you've seen Walker in and out of a bunch of things. Comments, Twitter, all over. So yeah, this is a really nice opportunity for us to get even deeper into Walker's life here. Jeremy, what's up? Nice to have you. Rock and Roll CEO Mustafa, how you doing? Okay, we'll bring up a few more. Spencer, hello from Minneapolis. Hello. Corey Moen. Walker, the original real-life no-code cowboy. I love that. That's cool. That's an H1 right there. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Let's get into this. So, Walker, the way that we start each Community Day episode is for you to tell us your story. From the beginning of your professional journey until today, tell us that story.
Okay. Yeah, like it says in the notes, 6 minutes, but it could take 6 days to tell this whole story. But long story short, I grew up in Western Colorado and just was a ski racer and worked in a rodeo cowboy and worked on ranches during the summer. And so then one of the things that I'm proud of is I was a helicopter ski guide in Cordova, Alaska for about 5 years, which is really cool stuff. And it wasn't until I was 31 years old that I actually learned how to use a computer beyond like browsing the internet. And up to that point, I didn't even really know what Safari was. I'd be like, where's the internet on the computer? And I went to Texas Christian University Ranch Management School in 2010. And I had to learn how to build pretty complex spreadsheets for ranching budgets. And then so from there, afterwards, I got the opportunity to go to Ghana, Africa, and explore the beef industry from pasture to plate. The Ghanaian government reached out to the Institute of Ranch Management, which is a part of Texas Christian University Ranch Management Program, and asked a few people to come over. And I guess the reason I got asked to go to Africa is because I lived there for a year in 2005 as just a whitewater kayak bum, and kayaked on the River Nile before they dammed it, and lived in a tent. So that was pretty fun. So then, I had some experience in Africa. A lot of the ranch kids that, as you can imagine, have never been to Africa. So went there and I built my first website in Google Sites and brought in some Google Docs and some maps and stuff. And that's kind of how I got on this path. And then in 2014, cloud computing was like really starting to, in my world, become more mainstream. And I was going to school at the University of Montana, taking some technology classes, and I wanted to create a software uh, platform for cattle grazing to be more efficient because cows are basically widgets and they consume grass. And then you have a pasture and you know the number of acres or hectares or whatever, and you know how much grass or edible forage is in that pasture. So I wanted to create a program that would say, how many cattle you put in there, how much, what their consumption is, and basically when you get to like a marker or like a 50% mark that says, okay, the pasture should be rotated and you should move the cattle. And so I did my first mock-ups in Google Draw. I don't know how many people have used that, but it's really painful. Um, and then from there, later on, I was like, all right, I better learn something else. So I learned Adobe Illustrator and then InVision, and actually created a prototype. Um, and then, kind of 2014, that same year is when I discovered Webflow, but I had really no knowledge of HTML and CSS or anything. So I gave up on that. Um, and then I guess, fast forward to 2019, some friends and I attempted to develop a mobile application for cattle marketing. So basically take a video of your cattle, put a description in, and post it to a marketplace. Um, and That's where they were like huge proponents of Webflow. And so that's when we started using it, or I started using it again. And, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that I've gone over, but that's like kind of it in a nutshell. And have really just started diving back into Webflow in the last 2 years, and obviously the Twitter community has been amazing, and so it's
Awesome. That's it's so interesting that you come from an industry and an environment that really doesn't focus much on tech, doesn't focus on the
yeah,
use
no.
of computers as much. And I thought it was really interesting when you said when you first started to use a computer, you barely knew like the difference of the internet and other software applications, and you kind of had to learn from the beginning. And that kind of sets the tone for you were in this environment that wasn't tech forward, and you kind of had to learn it as you went.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I have to ask, you said that you in 2014 you were learning more about cloud computing and you wanted to develop some cattle grazing software, where you were telling us about that. Did you ever do that? Did that complete, or did you just make the mock-ups for it?
So I just made the mock-ups and a like a few hundred pitch decks, and so I got really good at making pitch decks and talking to venture capitalists. But at the time, um, technology and agriculture are so far apart that nobody understood either one. And now it's changing a little bit because for other reasons like land is a good investment, so technologists have started focusing more on it. And COVID really transformed the industry, and it just kind of forced people that hated computers to actually use them. So
So
yeah, that was a
I get,
fail.
yeah, that's I'm not surprised that the technology and cattle grazing didn't go together. When do you think that agriculture and technology really started to connect, where people in agriculture said, "Oh wow, we can use technology here to improve our process"? What year was that?
I can't pinpoint a year, and I would say that farming has really eclipsed they're much more early adopters than the ranching sector because of GPS and precise crop management and stuff within their machines. So they've always been a little forward thinking. And there's a company called Farm Logs that started, I can't remember, like 2013 or 14 ish. But in terms of ranching, it's still way behind. If you
Mhm.
look at most of the like video auction sites and stuff like that, they really look like my son who's 9 years old built them. Um, but uh, I would say just that COVID was really the year that ranching kind of took more of a notice to the technology.
Interesting. Okay, that's very cool. So I'm now going to consider you a pioneer in the tech ranch uh, combination of working together. So cool. I
Although
like how
there,
you were having these thoughts early in your life, or
yeah.
earlier in the timeline of technology and ranching coming together. And we have a question from Dale Jensen. Walker, you say part-time cattle rancher. Is it your ranch or are you working on someone else's ranch?
So not a complex, but to describe it's kind of complex. So I'm an employee, and so I'm not technically a cattle rancher because a rancher actually owns the cattle and has like some stake in the game. So I'm a ranch hand, but it's so much easier to tell people that aren't familiar with it that you're just a cattle rancher. Because if
Yeah,
you say
of
ranch
course.
hand, then they're like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And so there's an owner of the ranch, and then he leases the grass to a cattle rancher that lives in Twin Bridges, Montana, which is about an hour and a half away. And he grazes his cattle up here in the summertime. And then we provide the care. So we provide all the animal health and the grazing and the mineral. And anytime you need to work them, they bring them to the corrals, whatever. So we do all that for him.
So cool. And what is your breakup of time? Like give me one of your days. How much time are you spending as a ranch hand and how much time are you spending creating brands and creating Webflow projects?
Well, so I have three kids, so usually we get up around 5 a.m. and either try to exercise then, or work on some branding stuff. And then I get to the ranch, like 7 or 8. It's not like super early, which is it's kind of awesome. It's a unique situation. Most ranches start really early, and then I'll go till 12:30 or 1 at the ranch, and then I only live 3 minutes from the ranch. So then I drive back home and have lunch, and then I start working on branding and web development, and try to pick up one of these live streams, something like that. And then around 5 o'clock, you pick up the kids and you're with them, dinner and all that stuff till about 7, and then till about 10 o'clock, the is back at my branding and Webflow stuff.
That's great. Now, I know a lot of people in this industry are always looking for ways to separate from work. Right? A lot of people work from home, they're in their house the entire day, and they're looking for activities or tasks or anything that they can do to kind of separate from that work. Would you say that being a ranch hand really helps you separate from that process and give you some breathing time and give you some time to think off of the computer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just like
Nice.
it's done wonders for my my mood and my physical health. Because I was getting you get back. Everybody knows you get back problems from being hunched over all the time, and yeah, it's amazing just being outside every day and physical, and I've lost a lot of weight doing it too.
Nice. Yeah, that's a win. That's great. And I think a lot of people can be inspired by this. Even if you're not going to become a ranch hand, just the idea of finding something that you really enjoy and being able to do that during the day and separate from work. I love it. I think that's great. So, Walker, why do you want to be featured on Community Day? Like, tell us why you're here and why you want to share your story.
Like one, I saw the opportunity, and I don't do any paid marketing or advertising like that. It's all word of mouth, so that's one of the reasons. And then too, like it's a unique story. I don't know anybody who's an actual like ranch hand slash cowboy that actually builds websites and tinkers with Coda and Notion and stuff like that. So, and then also just like not knowing even how to click on the Safari button when I was 30 years old. So,
Yeah, that's that's great. Inspiring. And I love the no code cowboy title. Do you use that, or is that something the community created that you don't take on?
yeah, I think that's what Corey created.
Nice.
uh,
Corey,
yeah.
I love it. Cool. Okay, so now this is the transition of the show where we go to screen share and we're going to
Okay.
look at two pieces of work that you are most proud of. So, we'll go to screen share and Walker, let's walk through these projects.
Okay. Can this is the one you can see now, Eastco? Um, this is actually just the most recent website I've done, and it actually was a lot prettier. Sorry, Jen, if you're listening to this, but they wanted to remove some elements. So, but I still, I like. It's just one of my most recent ones, and I used the Finsweet filter for this little resources page that they have, and I loved doing that. Um, and so I wouldn't say it's the most beautiful site. It's just functional. I'm not really into creating a ton of interactions. One, I'm not that good at them, and two, I personally don't like looking at a website that is full of interactions. I don't mind subtle ones. Um, but if I ask my wife if I do an interaction on a website and show her one with and one without, she doesn't really notice or care. And then so I did all the branding and the typography colors for all this one, and it was a redevelopment of their old site. And then Catalyst Ag, I didn't actually develop this site, but I did all the branding for it. And it's a nice site. It's a Webflow site that another organization developed. But these guys are doing some really cool things, and they're based here in Montana. Um, and I just like this. It's a nice it's a pretty logo. Um, And I actually, probably the two websites that I'm most proud of are actually internal websites for companies that are like CMS driven. And I'm actually, those ones are my most proud, but unfortunately, can't show those ones. Um, so yeah, that's these two basic sites. And the one I'm working on now is for the Matador Ranch, which is the largest ranch in Montana. And I guess if you want to go back to the live stream, we can talk a little bit about that if you're into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to comment on your comment about interactions as well as the simplicity of the design. Now, I think it's a better thing that you're not adding interactions to this. If you're telling me that the ranch community is just starting to get into tech, my
Yeah,
first thought is to build for that audience, which means don't add wild effects. Don't create these really confusing layouts. This is so simple, right? And if I'm not a tech person and I just want to go on a website to get information, like you said, your wife doesn't even see the interactions. It doesn't mean anything. Or maybe for some
yeah,
people, it may relax. It may confuse them, right? It may lead them in the wrong direction. So when I see this, I think that this is a good project, a good design, a good development, especially given the industry and how you told us that it's new, right? And I'm sure that
yeah,
this is a beautiful website for a ranch. I would imagine a lot of ranches either don't have a website or it's just not that nice. Is that true?
yeah. That's very accurate.
Yeah. Okay. So good. I just love this idea that you're helping to bring tech into an industry that doesn't really do tech or is brand new to tech. Very cool. Let's bring up some comments. We have some love here. Brianna, excited for today's show. Walker is one of my fave people on Twitter. Nice. Brandon Tancott with a really nice comment saying very nice to your portfolio work.
Thank you.
Penny, okay, this one's for me. I love how relaxed Joe looks while he's viewing these sites. You know, I was relaxed. The graphics are very relaxing. Gabe, totally correct. It's about designing for the target demographic. 100%. You know, if you're building a website for an animation company or a creative
Yeah.
design company, yeah, put a bunch of interactions in there. Make it wild, make it something you've never seen before. But going to the demographic that is going to view the site, you always have to design for those people. That's good design. Okay. Yep, Dale, agreeing with me. In this case, great advice, and I love a nice, subtle interaction. Absolutely. And Jeremy, last comment here, dig it. So, Walker, you're getting some love. Great sites here. Okay, so anything else that you wanted to talk about or discuss with that type of portfolio preview? Or are we ready to move on to the next section?
I think, yeah, I think we're ready to move on.
Cool. Okay, next part of this show is about the key strengths and qualities of you as a person. So, Walker, we're going to ask you what you're good at, what's your key strength, and this is going to help us in the next section when we talk about advice that you give to people. So, the first question is, what do you do really well?
Yeah, so the first thing that I do really well, and I'm definitely going to brag about this because I think that I'm really good at it, is be a husband and a father. Because I have three kids and a great wife, so they always come first. And it definitely takes away from probably some of the work that I could be getting, or I probably could be a little more successful, but I choose to spend time with my kids. I don't miss their football games. I don't miss their track meets. I don't, I ski with them every weekend. And I just love to hang out with my wife. And so I don't have like guys night or anything like that. It's just, we just hang out together and fish and whatever. So I'm really good at that. And then, I think from my design career, I'm I'd probably say a subpar Webflow developer, but I come from an artist background. My dad was an artist, but the one thing I'm really good at with my design career is just communication with the client. So I think I over communicate with the client, and sometimes it might get annoying to them, but at least they're not, at least they're in the know. And like I said before, I don't do any marketing, or I have Instagram and Twitter. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't really do anything with it. And I'm never like short on work, so I always have jobs coming in. And I want to just start focusing more on Webflow because I really enjoy it. And uh, I previously take on like illustration jobs and a few other things, but I'm just kind of narrowing it down to Webflow and branding now.
That's great. First, I have to give a big thumbs up to your first comment, being a great husband and father. That's is just more important than anything that you can do in work. So good for
Yeah.
you. I like how you said that first. And based on that comment, it's clear that you have excellent time management skills, or at least good time management skills. If you're doing the Webflow work, kids, you're going to all the games, you're doing the skiing, uh, Webflow, ranch hand, everything. This must be something else that you're good at, time management. So, do you ever feel overwhelmed with all the things that you have to do? Or do you just kind of you take a relaxed approach and say, this is what I need to do, this is how much time I have. I'm going to, go through the day with what I have available.
I wouldn't say that I ever really feel overwhelmed. Um, I don't know why I actually am like probably the best person in the world at zero fucks given. I mean, because I can just take something and put it aside. And I think the part of that was like the way my childhood. Um, but and my wife definitely says that's one of my biggest strengths. So if I want to block something out, I can just set it on the back burner and not really worry about it. And that's definitely a weakness. I wouldn't encourage people to get good at that.
That is funny. I love that. And would you say that oh man, that comment, the zero fucks given, just made me forget what I was going to ask. I love that comment. Would you say I don't know. I forgot what I was going to ask. So let's move on to this next question, and we'll just continue this same type of conversation. What would you be really efficient in? So
Um,
you're good at you're good.
yeah,
Oh yeah. What are you efficient in? Answer that.
uh, I guess probably the time management. Just having the morning ranch job and the kids and all that stuff. I'm not good at like planning it out, but I can move from one thing to another pretty well. And then, like you said, the ranch job is a great way of like clearing my mind to just kind of help me move on to the next things. But I guess I'm also efficient at when I get into the flow of the work, then I can like really get into it, um, and if there's a distraction, I can just kind of pop out and back in. But yeah, I think time management is probably, I would say, one of my better
That's a great one.
efficiencies.
That's that may be one of the best things to be efficient in, time management, right? Because if you're good with time management, you can be efficient with all the things that you have to do throughout the day. So I see being efficient in time management as like the most the most important thing. I love that. That this is also something I think I'm efficient at, just time management in general, and it feels good. It's something that you can get better at. You have to get better at when you have a lot of things to do, right? The more things that you have, the better you have to be at time management. So let's bring up a great question from Victoria. Walker, were you always good with time management? Or how did you get to be so good with everything that you do?
No, I was horrible at it. And at TCU, it's a really intense program. So yeah, they have the ranch management program, and you go and you go to the classroom for 9 hours a day, and then you have literally like 4 or 5 hours of homework every night. Um, and so it's actually 54 credit hours in 1 year. Um, but at the time, I had a brand new child, plus that, and just learning how to manage that. Um, I didn't have a job then because they wouldn't allow you to get a job, but just doing the schoolwork and the classes and spending time with my family and my newborn son at the time, I think that's what started it. And then now just having three kids that we live 20 miles outside of town, and our kids go to school in two different spots, so it takes me almost 2 hours every day to like get around to the kids. So you're in a car so much of the day, on the ranch so much of the day. It's like you got to really figure out how to prioritize what you need to work on.
That's the best way to learn. Learning through doing, learning through necessity, right? This isn't something you trained for or something you read books about. Just this is what the situation is. I have to learn how to make this work. So that's great. I love that. Please, audience, if you have any questions about that, if you're curious about any time management things, anything in this field, please ask it. I think that's a really good thing that a lot of people would love to learn from. Uh, Dale Jensen, let's ask this question. It's not exactly related to this topic, but let's bring it up from Dale. Interested to know how you learned your way around Webflow. And do you build using client first v2?
Um, so I just learned Webflow, one by just playing with it. Um, I learned Illustrator first, and I think Illustrator is one of the harder um, things to use in the Adobe suite. Just there's so many. I mean, I know like 10% of the Illustrator program, but so I kind of just took that approach to Webflow and just started like dragging in divs and images and figuring things out. But then a lot of YouTube, and then obviously looking at clonables, things like that. And then have, I wouldn't say that my client first is spot on, but now I'm like watching Joe's conversion and then reading all the V2 docs. And then this whole Matador ranch, which is actually a really cool project, is all going to be like, I have a good enough budget and a good enough timeline to where I can really really lay it out the way it needs to be laid out and build it client first. So I'm really excited to approach this one, and that's
Nice.
actually an interesting job because we actually the office I'm in. This is the company I'm working with. We went to the ranch, and Rupert Murdoch himself is gives us the orders. So, which is I went from building little teeny websites around here to Rupert Murdoch. So it's no pressure here, right?
Amazing. That's great. That goes right in line with the learning when it's necessary, learning on the job, learning when it's the right time to learn it through doing. Right? You're building websites. There wasn't really a need for organizing a very large website, but now you're saying you have this large website, and now you're going to focus more on, let's say, building it in an organized way. So that's cool. I
Mm-hmm.
see this trend now of you learning as a necessity. Just this is what's in front of me. I'm going to have to learn to go and do this. Let's bring up another learning based question or skills based question from Victoria. Victoria asks, how does your two jobs connect with each other when talking about skills? What has ranching taught you that has helped when you started with Webflow and design? So are there any, ranching skills, Webflow design skills? What mixes here?
Well, I would say in this case for this job, just knowing, so talking about the ranching experience and knowledge to the website design, I know how to go out and speak the rancher talk and know exactly what they're talking about and know all the lingo and the mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. And then they're surprised that I'm actually a web developer. And so then that gives me a lot of credibility specifically for this job, because this is a very, the Matador Ranch is a very, very serious ranch, and it's really doing some cool things with like carbon sequestration and grazing management, and they're trying to like really revolutionize and change the paradigm in the ranching world. um, so they have a lot of cool things going on, and that just having that background gives me a lot of credibility there. And then I think with the other way around, just having the ranching to the background gives me the work ethic, to really like dive into the Webflow and like work hard, and then get things done when I need to get them done.
That goes right in line with what we talked about earlier with designing and developing for the people that are viewing the project, viewing the website. Okay, it looks like there is some lag on the stream. We have a slight viewer count decrease, but I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to continue going because
Okay.
usually this is not. Yeah. Okay, we'll continue here. So, yeah, that's really interesting. This understanding the people that you're developing the website for. I think so many people in this industry are making websites for end users that they know nothing about. And there's nothing wrong with this, right? You can't always have this connection to the end user of the site you're building.
Yeah.
But when you do, it kind of gets to that next level of design, the next level of implementation, the next level of just creating a project that the people want to see. So that's really valuable. I love that. And now let me ask, do you only do websites in this industry, or have you built websites that are just completely different, like a SaaS tech website
Uh,
from San Francisco?
yeah, no, I have. It's been mainly in agriculture, but I've done some work for some people at Yeti, like who are working with Yeti for like internally, like project management. It's kind of like I used Webflow as it's kind of like a Notion doc. I can upload pictures and put uh, project locations and um, you know different material and then updates and stuff like that. And so that one was a really big learning experience. So that one was not anywhere near agricultural based, but for the majority, they have been um, ag websites that I built in Webflow.
That's great. And you'll see as you grow, I think you'll have the option to continue doing that or to expand to more types of business. So I'll be interested to see, a year in the future now, what are you doing? How has the big site you're about to build? What's it called again?
It's for the Matador Ranch and Cattle.
Matador Ranch. Is that going to propel you more into the agriculture side, or is it going to now open opportunities for other types of industry sites? So that will be an interesting one. Now, let's get into the next part of the show, which is about advice for the community. We've heard what you're great at, we've heard your efficiencies. We have this really interesting, the people that you're designing and developing for. So, for everybody in the audience that sees you as a leader, that sees you as some that they want to follow, what can they do to follow in your footsteps? What can they do to interact with you, to learn, to yeah, to be closer to your path?
I think one is just don't be afraid to just reach out to people and be engaged and interact. Like this, for example, it's not like I necessarily wanted to be featured on the community, but because I'm not like a huge extrovert, but I saw the opportunity and um, I applied, and then obviously you guys accepted me. Um, and it's never too late to start. Like I'm 42, and then obviously like Chris Doe, he was 42 and he started his YouTube channel. Like just and I think people get stuck in like analysis paralysis and think that they need to have like all their ducks in a row, and you don't. Like if you look at my portfolio site, my personal site, and you probably read all of the projects, there's probably a ton of spelling mistakes because I haven't been clinically diagnosed as dyslexic, but all the internet tests I've taken say there's a high probability. And so I could spend, a lot of time trying to get that copy right, but I just chose to just get it out there. Um, and so I think just start doing it. Um, and then also like if you're older like me, there's a lot of young people out there that are really ambitious and really talented, but they don't have the experience, the life experience that the older people do, which gives you a huge advantage.
Really important message there. I'm going to rehash these topics because I really like them. First one, just reach out. I love that. You don't have to have everything ready. You don't have to have everything perfect, right? You don't have to be in this point in your career where you're ultra successful. Just reach out. Try to get involved. Try to get that big project. Try to get on this show or this meeting or whatever you want to do. Uh, This analysis paralysis, you said. That's an interesting word. And I think a lot of people are in that, right? And even if you're successful, you can still be in this where you're just overthinking what to do next and you never actually do it, right? You're planning for months about how to open up a restaurant, but you never actually do it because you're just, what should be on the menu? What should we do here? How does this work? I don't know if I'm ready for this. Just do it. And it sounds like this is something that you do, right? You're just
Yeah.
ready to jump in. You're ready to do it. So this is an important message. I really love that one. And then you're never too old to start. You're never too old to start, and you're never too old to change, right?
Yeah.
You didn't use computers until you were 31. A lot of people may look at 31 and say, "Wow, I'm so behind in this. How could I even start?" But you started, you learned, you kept going, and now you could say you're highly proficient with computers when compared to many people throughout the world. So you're never too old to start. I really like that one. Um, Anybody have any questions in the audience? If you do, please ask questions about this. If you want to know more about this, now's the time to ask it.
I
So,
would say,
Walker,
um, I would just say that the ranching has given me probably an advantage, because working for crusty ranchers isn't always the most pleasant thing in the world, and you learn to get really thick skin. So I don't know how you develop that outside of, I mean, but trying to have thick skin and taking criticism or whatever, just uh, for what it is, and don't take it personally unless they're like personally attacking you. But um, just kind of roll with it. But that's one thing I'm really good at is I don't let it bog me down.
yeah, that's some people can hear a negative comment or an aggressive comment and it really hurts them. So you're saying that when something doesn't go your way or somebody says something that you don't really like, you just you forget it, right? You move on. That goes to your zero
Mm.
fucks given mentality.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then a kind of an inspiration for that is I don't know if you guys listen to Gary Vee. He's really good about that. Like, and he doesn't listen to the praise and he doesn't listen to the criticism. He just keeps going.
Yeah. You as you advance in your career, you'll get more of these negative comments just naturally. As more people know who you are, as you get more business, there's more people that have the opportunity to try to put you down. And we see this at Finsweet, right? We release something new and a bunch of people like it, but there's always some people that come in with some negative comments about it. But you don't have this. But what about this? But you're not doing this right. And it's difficult, right? It's difficult to work past that, but really the best way to do it is to listen to those comments, understand some of the problems that that person has, and then figure out the best way to move forward, not to let it push you down and not to let it really hurt you. So this is a skill. I see this as a skill, being able to hear this type of feedback and not let it affect you. Would you consider that a skill of yours, Walker?
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah.
Nice. Love that. Okay, let's bring up some comments before we move on. Brandon Tancott, love this line. Mastery takes time. Keep moving forward. Yeah, it does. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens. Nothing important happens in a month, right? It could take years, and that's okay. Penny, reaching out with a nice help. I can help with spelling mistakes. So, Walker, if you're interested in that, you can reach out to Penny. Penny, thanks for that. That's nice.
Thank you.
Javi, how do you get new projects?
Well, really, it's I'll either see a friend's business or whatever and just reach out to them and ask if I can rebuild their site. Um, and that's one way. And A lot of it, is just I've worked hard just to have a good reputation. So a lot of it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
Um, but I have
Okay.
taken
So
your
yes.
advice where I have built some sites for. I'm like, yeah, you just charge, you pay me what you think it's worth, and usually they're pretty fair with it. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's a great method, especially for getting started. You know, reaching out to somebody and saying, "Hey, whatever you think this is worth, let's do it. I need to learn a little bit. I need to get in this industry. How can I help you?" And that answers Mika's question really nice. We'll bring it up, but you've already answered this. Mika says, "Do you get your clients in the ranching sector by word of mouth or active outreach?" Now, you said you do both. Do you have anything else to add to that?
no, because I don't.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't have any paid advertising or anything like that. Or
Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't think paid advertising is the best method for this industry. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
no.
Josh asked a question, but Josh, we did cover this earlier in the episode. What's your typical day like? So, Josh, great question. We did answer that. So, you'll have to go back. It's a really interesting day. I'll tell you that. Okay. Now, let's move on here. Let's talk about the challenges and next steps. So, Walker, it's now your time to tell people, what are you going to do next? And what challenges do you expect to see? And then, of course, we need to talk about not only the challenges, but how you plan to overcome these challenges. So tell me, what's next for you?
Well, first, just thinking of the challenges. So I've tried and failed at two ag tech startups. So that's given me a lot of experience, um, and kind of helped my maturity in all this. And then behind every overnight success is like 20 years of hard work, right? So I've been pushing the technology stuff in agriculture since 2014, really. And there's been times when I've like thrown in the towel and said I'm never touching ranching again. But I always just like keep coming back to it for some reason because I love it. And now it's like starting to actually take off. Like, so I'm starting to see some fruits of my labor. Um, but the next things I want to accomplish really is like narrow my scope and broaden my appeal. Just like I said, kind of, I'm not going to take on, like a poster illustration or, some kind of, can you do this illustration for my club or whatever. I'm going to focus mainly on just taking on Webflow projects. And if they have some branding associated with them, because I really love doing the logo and the brand work like that. And, and then I just want to become exceptionally good at Webflow. And then I really want to learn the Wiz stuff to actually create some cool web applications because there's so much potential in agriculture, um, that really, and now, like we said earlier, like the people in agriculture are really starting to become more in tune with the technology and stuff like that and see how it can help them. So I feel like if I just keep working at it, then it's going to work in the future. And then after that, I really actually want to master like Coda and Airtable because I feel like those platforms have a lot of potential for that stuff as well.
Nice list. Let me ask, you said there were two agriculture tech startups and they both failed. Was the reason for that failure because of the creation of the software?
I think one, yeah, is when we wanted to develop the grazing software, we were going to have to hire a developer, and the cheapest budget we got was $250,000.
Yeah, that sounds about
Um,
right.
and now I'm 100% confident I could build what what we were trying to build in Coda or Airtable. I just haven't had the time to do it. And then the other one, uh, the mobile marketing app, I think kind of like a lack of execution on my part. I just had a lot of brand new kids and things going on, and then our developer, we weren't paying him because he saw the potential in it, but then he got a really good job offer, and so I was like, you'd be crazy not to take it. We just shut it down.
Yeah, that's it's really common. Those types of failures, I think that's the top reason that a lot of tech startups fail. Problems with software development, whether that's affording software development or developing it in the right way. So I really like that you say whizzed. And of course, I am a bit biased to this comment, but yeah, I think with Wiz, you would be able to build these types of softwares yourself, right? After you become proficient in Wiz, you can actually create the MVP or even maybe the final product of this application that can work. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very interesting. And then also interesting, the Coda and Airtable, these I see these as organization tools. So are there a lot of people in the agriculture industry or specifically the ranching industry that still use like pen and paper or like a really disorganized Excel spreadsheet? And is that tell me about that?
Oh yeah, that's the norm. Like a lot of people still keep like ledger books,
Yeah.
like physically write the their finances down. And then yeah, it's either that or a lot of people I reach out to, they're like, well, I use Excel and it seems to work just fine. And now that I have kind of seen the tip of the iceberg with Coda and Airtable, and know my experience trying to build those softwares prior to this, yeah, I know that I could rebuild it and offer them a lot of time saving. Like the ranchers are just not interested in technology unless you can say to them, "Look, it will save you $10,000 a year."
Yeah. I think most people are interested when you get to that part of it.
Yeah,
So that's great. That's, it's so important to help people that are using these outdated processes become a little bit more techie, right? Where you don't have to teach them to write JavaScript, but you can teach them how to update a simple spreadsheet so that they save 10 hours a week. This is huge. This can change people's life an extra 5 or 10 hours per week. So great. Good for you. I love those next steps. I think really important. Let's bring up a couple of great comments here. Josh Lowe, lots of potential in the agriculture industry. Yes, so much potential. And we'll bring up from Mika. My extended family owns a dairy farm, and if there's anything I've learned about agriculture tech, is that it's expensive. Holy money.
yeah,
Yeah. So when things are expensive and you can introduce these cost saving initiatives, this is a huge benefit for everybody involved. So
yeah.
great. And we'll bring up this from Josh Lowe. Walker to Pierre de Montalte. Pierre, I've never tried to say her last name. Pierre's always
Oh,
here,
cool.
hanging out, part of the community. He is a master in automation, Airtable Make, etc. So nice. If you ever come in contact with Pierre, maybe he can help out.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nice. I love when community people connect other people. That's great. Okay, Mike Douglas, nice question. Branding question here. What's the best way to brand a cow these days? Oh, that's
Well,
a bit of a
in
jump. Nice.
in Montana, it's still the law to have a brand on a cow. So you get a branding iron really hot, and you actually brand their hide. And they're sore for
Wow.
a day or two, but yeah, it's required by law to do that here in the state of Montana and a lot of these Western states.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. Nice. Okay, good question. Let's see. Robert. Yeah, 250K for the software. I can only imagine expensive. Yes. And if someone's charging that much for software, uh, it's got to be a big software application, which means there's a lot of management, which means there's a lot of maintenance costs. Like, this is a
Yeah,
huge initiative to go into an app development at this cost. And
yeah,
you'll find quotes higher than this, you'll find it way lower than this, and no matter what you're paying for it, it's always a gamble. There's never 100% certainty that that application will be developed, it works as expected, and everything is happy and working correctly, right? It's software. There's always unexpected things happening.
yeah.
Okay, great. So we have 4 minutes left. We're making great time. Last part of this is to ask the community or to tell the community how they can help you. So, Walker, how can the community help you? Everybody watching now, everybody watching in the future.
Um, I think just what I'm doing right now is like, I'll reach out to people on Twitter, and everybody's super responsive, and that's I think that's the best way right now. That, or my ask is like, I think if I reach out to you, I'd love to connect. If I have a question, and likewise, always feel free to reach out to me. And I will say, like, for people who are interested in possibly like learning more about ag tech or whatever, there's like some crazy potential. Like the U.S. cattle industry transacts over $88 billion a year, which is a large sum of money. So there's a lot of you know technology to be had here that could make some improvements. If you're ever curious about it or whatever, feel free to reach out. But yeah, I think my ask is basically what I've been doing is reaching out to people and talking to them, interacting, and everybody's been wonderful.
That's great. So, just start a communication, start talking. That's how the community can help you. That was your advice earlier in the episode, to just reach out. Don't overthink it, right? If you want to talk ag tech, reach out, right? I'm sure it'll be beneficial for everybody. So, if you want more about Walker, follow him on socials. All of his links are in the description of this video. So open up that description. We got website, Twitter, Instagram, Dribble, Webflow, everything. So please go and check out more of Walker's work, and really do not hesitate to watch out. Walker, is there anything else that you would like to communicate to the audience before we sign off here?
Um, no, I think like what we were just talking about, though, is like I used to be on Twitter, like basically political Twitter, and I wanted to like cry myself to sleep every night. And now I'm on Webflow Twitter, and it's been amazing. It's like it's night and day. So yeah, thanks to everybody out there.
Yeah, totally agree on that. You can find some very dark parts of Twitter, but this industry, this Webflow ecosystem, the no code ecosystem, it is great. So great. Let's bring up this comment from Mika as a close. Love listening to your story, Walker. Doing great things. I agree. I really enjoyed listening to your story. I enjoyed all of the information you gave, the tips, the just good vibes, right? This was a really nice episode. So I want to thank you a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so appreciative.
Excellent. Okay, we are at the hour. That's the end of this community day. And yeah, we're going to close up this episode. Find us tomorrow 9 a.m. Eastern for Build Day with Alex Iglesias. We'll be going over some technical content. And then next Tuesday, we will be doing more live builds of Client First V2. Everyone, have a great rest of the day. Thank you for tuning in, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.